For almost 10 years, Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez lived one of the most famous love stories in the world. But there was always one question hanging over their relationship. Would they ever actually get married? They had children together. They built a life together. They traveled the world together. They survived extraordinary highs and heartbreaking lows. And then, after nearly a decade together, it finally happened. On August 11, 2026, Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez reportedly married in an intimate civil ceremony in Cascais, Portugal. No gigantic celebrity spectacle. No stadium. No red carpet. Just a private moment involving the couple and their family. And perhaps that's what makes the story even more fascinating. Because this isn't really a story about a football superstar marrying a model. It's a story about how two people from completely different worlds met by chance, built a family, became global celebrities, and eventually made their relationship official. But to understand how they got here, we have to go back to the beginning.
Buenos Aires, London streets to Tokyo night. When the whole world starts believing, football turns the dark to light.
It started in Madrid, not at a football stadium, not at a glamorous Hollywood party, not at some exclusive billionaire event. It started inside a Gucci store. In 2016, Georgina Rodríguez was working as a sales assistant at the luxury fashion store in Madrid. And then one day, Cristiano Ronaldo walked in. At the time, Ronaldo was already one of the biggest footballers on the planet. He had become a global superstar at Manchester United and Real Madrid. Georgina, meanwhile, was working in luxury retail and was nowhere near the level of worldwide fame she would eventually achieve. According to accounts of their meeting, Ronaldo entered the store with his son Cristiano Jr. and friends. Georgina later recalled being struck by his appearance and presence. But here's the interesting part. There was no guarantee that this encounter would become anything more than a brief meeting. They were simply two people who happened to cross paths. Yet sometimes, the biggest stories begin with the smallest moments.
One world, one dream, we're born to.
Their paths crossed again, and gradually, the relationship developed. Georgina has spoken publicly about the early days of their romance, including how unusual it felt when Ronaldo would sometimes pick her up after work in incredibly expensive cars. Imagine the scene. Other employees are leaving work, people are heading home, and suddenly, one of the world's most famous footballers arrives. For Georgina, this was the beginning of a completely different life. But behind all the luxury was something much simpler. The two connected. Ronaldo later explained that he hadn't initially expected the relationship to become so serious. But over time, his feelings changed. In his own account, he came to see Georgina as the woman of his life. And Georgina has described their first connection in similarly romantic terms. The relationship was no longer just a celebrity romance. It was becoming something much more personal. By early 2017, the relationship was becoming increasingly difficult to hide. The couple appeared together publicly at the Best FIFA Football Awards. Suddenly, the world had questions. Who was this woman beside Cristiano Ronaldo? Who was Georgina Rodríguez? And how serious was their relationship? The answer became clearer as the year went on. Their relationship became public. But something even bigger was happening. Their family was growing. Ronaldo was already a father, and Georgina was beginning to become an important part of his family life. Then came another major milestone. In November 2017, Georgina gave birth to their daughter, Alana Martina. And suddenly, this wasn't simply a romance. It was a family.
Forever.
One of the most interesting parts of Ronaldo and Georgina's story is that their family didn't follow a conventional path. Ronaldo already had his eldest son, Cristiano Jr. In 2017, he also welcomed twins, Eva and Matteo, via surrogacy. Then came Alana Martina with Georgina. And eventually, the family grew again. In 2022, Georgina gave birth to twins, Bella Esmeralda and Angel. But the family experienced an unimaginable tragedy. Their baby boy, Angel, died during childbirth. It was one of the darkest moments of their lives. Ronaldo and Georgina publicly shared their grief, and Ronaldo later spoke about how deeply the loss affected the entire family. Bella survived, and the family continued forward together. It's important to remember this part of their story because behind the glamorous photographs, designer clothes, luxury homes, and football trophies, there was a family dealing with the same kind of love, pain, and loss that millions of families understand. And that tragedy became part of their story.
Now he says I don't need no six-shooter fame. Just give me the ball, I'll win this game. Cowboy, cowboy, kick that ball. Cowboy, cowboy.
But while Ronaldo was already one of the most famous athletes on earth, Georgina's own fame was exploding. Being Ronaldo's partner gave her enormous global attention. But she didn't simply remain in the background. She built her own public identity. She became a model, an influencer, a fashion personality, and eventually, the star of her own Netflix reality series. I Am Georgina. The show gave audiences a glimpse into her life, family, and relationship with Ronaldo. Suddenly, people weren't only interested in Cristiano Ronaldo. They were interested in Georgina, her clothes, her lifestyle, her family, her personality, her journey. And that distinction is important, because Georgina's story became its own celebrity story. She went from working in a luxury retail environment to becoming a globally recognized personality herself. But fame comes with a price. Imagine having millions of people watching your relationship. Every photograph analyzed. Every vacation photographed. Every outfit discussed. Every family moment turned into a headline. For Ronaldo, this level of attention had existed for years. But Georgina had to adapt to an entirely new world. Their relationship became one of the most photographed relationships in football. And yet, they also appeared determined to maintain parts of their private life. Their social media accounts gave fans glimpses into their world, but rarely the complete picture. That's what made their relationship so intriguing. People could see the luxury. They could see the holidays. They could see the family. But they couldn't always see what happened behind closed doors. And for almost a decade, one thing remained surprisingly uncertain. When would Ronaldo finally propose?
Just different names for the world's big ball.
Then, in August 2025, the question was finally answered. Georgina announced their engagement. And the internet immediately focused on one thing: the ring, a huge oval-cut diamond. Reports estimated its size at more than 30 carats, with speculative valuations reaching several $1 million. But the ring wasn't the most important part. The important part was what it represented. After years together, after building a family, after surviving enormous personal highs and lows, Cristiano Ronaldo was finally asking Georgina Rodríguez to marry him, and the proposal itself had a surprisingly family-centered detail. Ronaldo later described how his daughters were involved in the moment. The story wasn't simply, football superstar gives girlfriend giant diamond. It was, a family was becoming officially united. about how much had changed. When Ronaldo and Georgina first met, they were simply two people in Madrid. Ronaldo was already famous. Georgina wasn't. Then came the relationship, the public appearances, the children, the houses, the travel, the businesses, the television show, the millions of followers, the personal tragedy, the engagement, and through all of it they stayed together. Almost 10 years. That's what makes their relationship different from the typical celebrity romance. It survived long enough to become part of their identities. By the time the engagement happened, they weren't just boyfriend and girlfriend. They had effectively built an entire family and life together. There was only one thing left: the wedding.
Trails to a green pitch slide. He scores in the day and he scores at night. He says, I don't need no six-shooter fame. Just give me the ball, I'll win this game. Cowboy, cowboy, kick that ball. Cowboy, 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 hear the call. Run, run, run like a shooting star. Cowboy, cowboy, super.
And then came August 11th, 2026. After years of speculation, Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez were married. The ceremony took place in Cascais, Portugal, in an intimate civil ceremony. And remarkably, the wedding was much more private than you might expect from one of the most famous couples on the planet. The couple shared the news publicly, showing their wedding rings. And suddenly, a relationship that had lasted almost a decade had entered a completely new chapter. Cristiano Ronaldo was no longer simply Georgina Rodríguez's partner. He was her husband. And Georgina was no longer simply Ronaldo's longtime partner. She was his wife. For a couple who had spent years under the microscope, the simplicity of the moment was striking. After all the fame, all the headlines, all the trophies, all the cameras, the thing they were celebrating was incredibly simple: family and commitment. So why has the story of Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez captured so much attention? Because it contains almost everything audiences love. A chance encounter, a superstar, a woman whose life changed dramatically, romance, luxury, children, success, tragedy, fame, and finally, marriage. But there's another reason. Their story shows something we often forget about celebrities. Behind the public image is a private human story. Ronaldo is one of the greatest footballers ever. He spent his life chasing records, goals, trophies, perfection. But his greatest priorities away from football have increasingly revolved around family. Georgina, meanwhile, went from a relatively ordinary working life to becoming one of the world's most recognizable celebrity partners. Together, they created something that football alone couldn't provide. A home, a family, a sense of continuity beyond the pitch. And that may ultimately be the most important chapter of Ronaldo's life. But now comes the most interesting question. What happens after the wedding? Because Cristiano Ronaldo's football career is approaching a completely different stage. He is no longer the young phenomenon who burst onto the scene at Manchester United. He's no longer the Real Madrid superstar scoring goal after goal. He's now a veteran, a father, a businessman, and a husband. His legacy is no longer only about what happens on a football pitch. It's also about what he leaves behind. Records can eventually be broken. Trophies eventually gather dust. But family memories can last much longer. And perhaps that's why this wedding feels bigger than just another celebrity wedding. It marks the beginning of a new chapter. The footballer who spent decades trying to become the best is now building a legacy that exists beyond football.
Soccer.
The story of Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez isn't really about a Gucci store. It isn't about a giant engagement ring. It isn't about luxury cars. It isn't even about a wedding. It's about what happened between all of those moments. Two people met by chance in Madrid. One was already a global superstar. The other was living a very different life. And somehow, their paths crossed. They built a family. They experienced extraordinary happiness. They experienced devastating loss. They became global celebrities. They stayed together through almost a decade of life in the spotlight. And now, they're married. For Cristiano Ronaldo, football may have made him famous. But perhaps his most important legacy won't be measured in goals. It won't be measured in trophies. And it won't be measured in Ballon d'Ors. It may simply be measured by the people waiting for him when the stadium lights turn off. Because eventually, every football career ends. Every record is broken. Every trophy belongs to history. But family? That's the story that continues. And this is the untold story of Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodríguez.